You know, back in the day, photography was a completely different story. You had to know things like shutter speed and f-stop. You would take your photos, then you would develop your negatives, and eventually you would print your photos as well. Nowadays, pretty much everyone has one of these in their back pocket. Not to mention that smartphones have come such a long way that sometimes the image quality is just as good, if not better, than some of the digital cameras out there. So how do you stand out in a world where pretty much everybody is a photographer? Hi, I'm Erin, and today I really want to talk to you about some practical tips that will help you develop your voice and your style as a photographer. So one of the first things on the list is give yourself permission to play. Now, for years I worked in a kindergarten, and one of the things is that when you're a child, you spend a lot of time copying the things you see around you. You reenact them with your friends or playing house, and it's not that different from photography. I feel like when you first start taking pictures, it's important to go through and find your favorite photographers, copy a little bit of their style, try what they're doing. Because it's only through this process of experimenting, coming up with new ideas, trying things you're not used to, and getting out of your comfort zone that you'll really start to develop your own style, and your pictures will start to look different than what everybody else is doing. After I graduated, I went through this period where I just didn't feel like taking pictures anymore, and I didn't really know why. And then in 2019, I bought my first instant camera, where everything really started to change for me. I started to experiment more with making collages or simple panoramas, and I thought nobody would take me seriously because it was just an instant camera. But actually, it was through this process of playing and experimenting that I really started to develop my own creative style and my own voice. Now, that also goes hand in hand with something that Julia Cameron mentions in her book, The Artist's Way. She talks about this idea of having an artist date, which means putting time on your calendar to spend with your creative art. It's so easy to get caught up in all these different things, and rather than trying new things when it comes to photography, you just keep doing the same things over and over. I think it's really important to just spend quality time with your photography. All those crazy ideas you might get while walking through the park or going for a run, you should really take those ideas and then give yourself the time and space to do that. Long ago, I just had this idea that you either have to be really, really good at photography or you have to be different. Your goal at the end of the day, it should be finding a way to stand out and develop your creative voice as a photographer so that when people see your photos, they recognize it's you, it's your style. A good example of this is when I'm out on the market selling my pictures. I have a lot of people come over to my table because it stands out, and they start looking at my pictures and they're like, wow, that's really cool. I would have never thought of that. Where did you come up with this idea? It was through such easy practices that I got so into experimental photography in the first place. I realized I'm the kind of photographer that doesn't like to sit behind my computer for hours and hours and hours editing photos. I want to be involved in the entire creative process. I want to take pictures. I want to develop my own negatives. I want to play around in the darkroom. I like to do all these experimental things because it really gets me thinking outside of the box and trying something new and creative when it comes to my photography.
Here's one last example. Can you guess the photographers just based on their pictures? Each one has cultivated their own distinct style through years of practice, as well as taking creative risks and thinking outside of the box.
So what's really important is that you give yourself, first of all, permission so that you can play around and have fun with photography again. Second of all, creating these artist dates and giving yourself time to be able to explore these creative ideas or other projects. And lastly, your goal should be to be different and not to be the best photographer there is. So if you're like, this sounds great, but where do I start? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notifications, and I will be posting more creative and experimental techniques for you in the future. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Erin. Happy shooting.